Welcome back, guys. Joe again here from Third World Aquatics in another video. Just want to give you a quick update on the 1,000-gallon tank and tell you what's going on and what we're doing to help speed this thing up and get it cycled and get ready for fish. So it's been about 20 days that we've been up and running and things are looking pretty daggone good. So I'm going to show you here in a few moments. We're going to take you around the back and show you what we're using to kind of speed the process up. But one of the things I wanted to point out real quick here is we got a couple samples of wood here. Let me turn on the light so you can see this a little bit better. So the cousin, which is Chris, is a carpenter, and he's one heck of a good carpenter. He brought us over a couple samples. And we're trying to pick the flavor. I mean, you guys tell me down in the comments below, but I think what I'm starting to like is probably going to be this guy right here. I think that's going to look good on the front of this. We are going to trim this around the entire perimeter of the tank. And the only area that's going to be just a tad different is going to be right out front here. It's probably going to be about out to here, and just a tad thicker on the bottom. And this will be an area where obviously we can put drinks on here. There's probably going to be a couple bar stools out front, but I am kind of liking this one right here. So you guys tell me what you think.
Oh, good.
Now as far as the front, he's also making two covers, but those we're going to probably paint chocolate brown to kind of match with the rest of the area. I don't want those jumping out and kind of catching your eye. I really want to be more focused towards the tank and just the simple trim that goes around the perimeter. So that's another project that's underway. Over here on the right, you can see we got two massive protein skimmers. We were pretty lucky. We came across these a couple months ago. These are the SROs, which is the Super Reef Octopus. This is the XP8000E. These guys are about 39 inches tall, and they're rated for 1,500 gallons a pop. So we're probably going to be using these on System 2, which is that 360, 540, and 900 gallon aquarium that all come together into another pretty good filtration system. But these are probably going to be sitting down inside, and we're going to be probably talking about this a little bit more in due time. But those are pretty nice. It was a good grab to come across those, and we're happy to be in possession of those. But other than that, let me take you around the back and show you what's going on in the filtration room here with the 1,000. So I just wanted to point out real quick, so the sand, obviously pretty thick substrate, and this is it right here. We came across a deal a couple years back, and the guy had in a storage unit, I mean, he used to own a saltwater shop, and he had probably 50, 60 boxes of this. It's 20 pounds per bag, or box, and he had this right here, which is a kind of like a Hawaiian white sand. Let me turn the light on real quick. I mean, obviously in my hand it's one thing, but being in the tank and wet, you can see that it completely changed its look, and to me that looks awesome. So great find there. The same guy had, I think we came across 30 of these bags here. This is Blue Treasure, and this is the salt that we put in the aquarium, and pretty good find there too. So I mean, these things are, I think they're 50 pounds a piece if I remember. So to get this to proper salinity, and I think right now we're sitting around 1.025, I went just a tad higher, but we ended up having to put in 250 pounds of salt to get this where we needed to be. So what I did was, obviously the very first job was just to get this thing running for like 10 straight days to make sure there was no issues with any of the plumbing I didn't want, anything leaking. I had to cover all areas of the filtration system to make sure there was no issues before I introduced that salt. So to me, the biggest hurdle was 10 solid days with no issues. And once we got to that point, that's when I started to introduce the salt into the system. And that took some time. And the way I did it was I put the bag up on top, the coast to coast, and I literally just took a razor blade and sliced it, and then the salt would drift through here and just really start to churn and mix up, and then eventually work its way down here into chamber 1 where all the socks are at. So over a period of probably about a week, we finally got the tank to proper salinity. So then what I did was I ran it for another probably 10, 12 days, just right there at the proper salinity. I did nothing. So then that finally got me to the point where it was like, okay, now it's time to introduce some chemicals. And we went with the Brightwell Aquatics, this container right here, which I picked up from Bulk Resupply. And we ended up having to pour the entire 1 liter of chemicals in the tank. And this is what really kickstarts the tank and gets that nitrifying bacteria system rolling. So even with this, it takes a little bit of time to get the ball rolling. And one of the things I did notice on the back of the container was, don't be doing this, meaning putting now in live sand. We're going to talk about this here in a second. But on the back of the container, it talks about putting this in first and giving it a good 7 to 10 days before you introduce the live sand. And I'll tell you what, I almost got tripped up on that myself because I didn't realize that. So we did what they said. We waited probably 7 to 10 days with the Brightwell. And now today, finally, we can introduce 3 bags. Now these right here, these are 20 pounds a piece. So here comes 60 more pounds of sand. But obviously this sand is completely different than this sand. Now what I want to do is same thing. You got to be kind of careful with this. I just can't pour this into the tank and put a coating on top of the whole thing. That doesn't really work well. What you want to do is kind of mix this sand in with this sand and kind of get it down inside. So that's going to be kind of a, I don't know if it's a hard job, but it's a matter of probably getting some type of stick down inside there and just kind of mix the two together. Now this is a really smooth sand, which is going to work out great for us if we do get into some stingrays or some type of sharks, either bamboo or epaulet sharks. I wanted somewhat of a smooth bottom of the tank so as to not hurt the bellies of that style of fish. So now the other thing I want to point out real quick is the temperature of the tank. 78 is actually the room temperature and 80 is system temperature. And I find that kind of funny in a way for the fact that there's not even a single heater on the tank. We're getting all of our heat probably from the induced heat of the motor, the actual hammerhead. So that's kind of a win there. The other thing real quick is over here in chamber 4, you do see a couple rocks there that are of different color. Those came from my other filtration system that's been up and running for probably 12, 13 years. So we took the live rock from the other filter, threw it into chamber 4 to help seed this system right here in 4 and 5, and also try to kick-start things a little bit faster. So you can see there's a lot of rock in 4 and 5, and hopefully as the months go by, this really kicks in and helps, establish and mature the whole system in itself. So real quick, for those that probably are new to the channel and never seen this entire system, I just wanted to run through how the entire filtration system works, but I'll just go kind of quick here. But obviously the water enters from the coast to coast. The tank is 8 foot long, 4 by 4 with 2 inch thick acrylic walls, and the coast to coast is on the back here. So all that water travels right through the wear and works its way over to this overflow box. I guess we'll call it, even though that's a overflow there, but here's the real drop-in chamber here where the water's picked up. And this, to me, it might not look like a bean animal system, but it kind of is, because instead of 3 vertical pipes, I've got 1 horizontal, which is emergency overflow right here on the left. So if anything goes wrong, water's taken off into that pipe right there. And I do keep the water level kind of high, almost to the bottom of this 6 o'clock position of that bulkhead. And I do that to keep the noise level down as it's entering over here, because I did notice when I was down a little bit, we would start to get a waterfall picking up here, and that was kind of loud. So obviously the water enters over here into this overflow box. The main pipe, obviously the full siphon, is this guy right here, and I've got this choked back just enough where the water level works its way up, and it's sitting right here on that edge. So we do get a little bit of water, not much, coming into this other siphon over here on the right. Got a little reflection there from the light over top. But the majority of the water is going through the full siphon here on the bottom, and obviously the other one is there just kind of standing by if something goes wrong. The water through those gate valves travels down into chamber 1 through these back-to-back 45s there, and they fall into this chamber, this rectangle chamber right here. This water rises up and water falls into the 9 socks, which I don't know if you're catching a good angle of that right there or not, but slide that back just like that. That water obviously travels through the 9 socks, goes through the socks, works its way around, and then water falls up through these 5 slots here on the left. And then there's 4 holes between the slots to really maximize and make sure that we don't choke the system and try to create the least resistance as possible to get into this other chamber right here. That water then travels into this box right here on the right, and then gets picked up by the 3 pipes and takes off to chamber 2. Chamber 2 also has its little box and dumps into the main portion of the chamber. Let me just raise this lid real quick. And that water works its way over to this other box where the other 3 pipes are at that take off to chamber 3. So the one that I want to add real quick is the whole reason why chamber 2 even exists was specifically for the 2 protein skimmers, which are the Aquatics 1000s. They're the biggest ones that they make, and we came across those a couple years back. But by having chamber 2 at a fixed elevation, we all know that a lot of times when you put skimmers inside sumps, and if this lowers or raises, it really throws off the skimming. So I wanted a chamber that I knew at all times would be at a fixed elevation, which you can see I did that from the way the chamber water comes in right there on that little chamber right there on the left, and the same over here on the right. So we're always at the proper height for the skimmers to work. They then fall into this box. Now, we did talk about this in a video or 2 back where we actually had to drill these holes because we were backing the system up. It appears to be working pretty good right now. Now, this water continues to travel through this chamber, this chamber, this chamber, and it gets picked up by the motor, and then obviously it takes back off into the return lines. There is a line here standing by, which eventually is going to be dialed in through this gate valve. Going to go through these 2 paper filters. Now, this portion of the filtration system is not done yet, but this pipe here will work its way over. It's going to go into a UV sterilizer right here, and then it's going to pick up around and fall back into this chamber here. That water continues on. Now, obviously, like I said, this one's choked off right now, so all that water is passing through. So I've got 3 options here, and we're actually using 2 of them right now. This one is going to a carbon filter, which I used in the very beginning to, clarify the water real quick in a matter of 48 hours, and that worked out pretty good, which is down inside there, so it's kind of a bad angle. The other pipe right here through this other gate valve, I'm actually back feeding into this pipe, and I've got a piece of pipe sticking out the bottom because eventually there's going to be a motor down there. But for now, I'm taking this gate valve, back feeding, and it's coming all the way through here, around the back, going there, and obviously that's feeding chambers 4 and 5. Obviously it arrives in 5 first. The water level rises. It goes through these 3 1.5-inch pipes. It goes down here. It goes into chamber 4. That water level rises and goes through those 4 2-inch pipes. And that works its way back over here. And right now we just have a temporary sock down the side here grabbing any large particulate matter that's coming from all those rocks. But that water continues to the main 2-inch pipes from the manifold, and they work their way all the way down underneath the catwalk. Back-to-back 45s right there. Go through the check valves, through the 2-inch Spears gate valves, step up to 3-inch, and they go back to the main tank. Off of this return line, you can see we put in a T-back here, stepped it down from 3-inch down to 2-inch. It goes down under the catwalk, goes to that Spears gate valve there, and ties into a drain, which takes us off to the house drain. This pipe over here was that emergency overflow that came from the overflow. Comes down under the catwalk and drops into chamber 3 if an event is an issue. Chamber 3 has its own emergency overflow here, which ties into the main emergency overflow pipe, I guess we'll call it, and works its way through a trap and connects in over there. Chamber 1 has its own emergency overflow. The protein skimmers, which are both turned off right now because it's not time for that, they've got their 2 pipes back there for both the cups, and they work their way over here to that drain. And there's also a 1-inch pipe that works its way all the way over to chambers 4 and 5, where I can turn a valve there or there, and if I need to drain either of these tanks for some crazy reason, and if I remember those are about 82 gallons apiece, I can turn a valve and quickly drain. Quickly back over to here because I think I might have forgot. This pipe was put in if I want to do a water change, I can close some valves, open that valve, and this is instantly 188 gallons of water is what I get out of the main display tank from this pipe from the bottom of that bulkhead back there, which is a 3-inch bulkhead. It's actually like 6.5 inches wide. We talked about that one in a couple of videos ago. But the bottom of that 6 o'clock position, by turning that valve down there, we get 188 gallons of water changed. So that's why we put that one in there. Okay, I think that's how the system works. I'm trying to see if I remembered or forgot anything. But that took some time. But There was a lot of hurdles along the way. It's up and running. Now, the skimmers won't come on probably for another 2-3 weeks. Same with the UV sterilizer. I did not want to do that during the cycling process. So we'll let that fully establish before we turn on either of those items there. So other than that, I think we're pretty much down to putting in the live sand. And then we do have a couple little items that are up and coming. There's an auto top off over here. We've got the Apex Neptune system that we're going to be probably using. There's actually a camera that's coming into play. So we're going to be getting into the automated side with the apps that go on the cell phones. So we're probably going to see that in due time. I'm not going to talk too much about that. But obviously with a system of this size and caliber, we are going to start introducing a couple items where if I'm at work and something goes wrong, if there's a water leak, I want to be able to not only see what's happening on my phone through the camera, but I will be able to tell from my phone if there's any parameters that are going off or something, maybe the motor shut off. So we'd want to know that quickly before it really gets detrimental to the overall system. All right, there it is, the 1,000-gallon tank and how it works. Kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?